how are you? W.J. O'Reilly here. And if you're in the mood, I'd like to read for you a little bit from my very first book called The Fiction of Forgiveness. Can't Just Say You're Sorry, which came out in 2020, September 30th, actually. And I just, at random, picked out chapter 36. What time is it, and for whom does the bell toll, is the title. In a flash, a dusty blue 77 Ford 150 truck rumbled up to the three, scattering the pigeons. A red-faced gringo with big jowls under a black felt cowboy hat rolled down the window and spoke. "You guys, get in the back." Carlos looked annoyed by the man's command, but was the first to hoist himself over the side of the truck. Rodriguez pushed his hat back from his eyes and wearily followed suit while Diego shuffled his cars with style flourish and brought up the rear. I went to Catholic school from kindergarten to the 6th grade. Some nuns were nice, while others were very mannish and cruel. I had an Irish nun who used to smack me in the face for looking ahead in the reader. I hate this woman, but we used to drive her up to her in-laws on Saturdays sometimes when we were headed up to Lawrence to see my grandparents. Sister, what the heck was her name? Don't know, and it doesn't really matter. I could spend 5 minutes trying to remember or trying to make one allegorical name up, but I ain't going that route, my friend. If you are so grandly obsessed with perfection, would you please go and write your own book? Anyway, mean Irish nun, 5th grade, she's hitting me in class, and I'm genuinely afraid of her. And they know she's hitting me, but we're keeping our enemies closer than our friends at this point. And she's sitting in the front seat next to my mother in her pink 1956 Mercury with the 3 holes on each side of the front fender. There we be, and the ancient and sadistic nun is taking up space in our car, and we have to mind our business in the back. By we, I mean my sister Dolores. She's 2 years ahead. That would put her in the 7th grade or something. By the following year, I was in 6th and she in 8th. The red-faced Iman peered into his passenger side mirror and quickly U-turned back in the direction he'd come from. The truck bounced from side to side, up and down on spent shocks, and the 3 men all had they could do to keep themselves in the dirty blue truck bed, sharing the space with assorted rakes, shovels, picks, and other sundry paraphernalia of the gardening trade. That's the end of chapter 36. A little bit of commentary on chapter 36. I hadn't really read this in quite a while. What struck me is how I really captured a fictionalized account of some day workers being picked up by a 77 Ford 150 truck by some red-faced gringo, and their feelings toward this gentleman who's in the position of hiring them. And then I flashed to a real-life experience with my 5th grade teacher, whom I hated and who punished me severely just for looking ahead in the reader in the book. And the fact that, you know, in the spirit of keeping your enemies closer, your friends closer, your enemies closer, we used to drive her up to see her in-laws on a Saturday when we used to go up to see my grandparents in Lawrence, Massachusetts. And it doesn't seem to matter. The fact that we're doing her the favor of taking her in our car to go see her in-laws after she's plaguing me in class, it doesn't really matter. She's just being the same way. And then after that, she just returns to doing the same kind of behavior. And then at the very end, the men are in the back of the truck with so many rakes and shovels and hoes and all that, and they're just mere implements. I'm not going to pretend to offer an explanation for that particular chapter. There were typos. I'd like to go back and clean it up a little bit. But aside from that, I found it interesting. And how is this representative of my work? Well, for one thing, I think that there is full opportunity to jump between imagery, time, space, reality, unreality. But I would look more closely at the tone. There's a tone of submission in that chapter. The men must submit to get the work, to get on the truck, the gringo's truck. that I have to surrender to my negative feelings towards the nun and even offer to drive her to see her relatives on a Saturday because we're trying to stay connected with her. And maybe my mother, who was a politician, felt that politically this might actually influence things. Not that she cared, because of course anything that happened to you in a Catholic school was your own fault. You deserved it. And we knew that that was how the game was played. You may be here because you've been watching the Buddhist chanting videos, and you may wonder, why would this kind of writing, or my kind of novel writing, be on a Buddhist channel which is devoted to chanting? And I think what it really comes down to is this. Some people kind of make fun of Buddhists, saying, oh, what are you, a vegetarian and you wear a bath curtain? You know, a shower curtain? You know, what do you, shave your head? What, you know, they assume that because people are Buddhists that they can't have a bad day or express a negative, quote unquote, emotion, to be angry once in a while or impatient or frustrated, and that's ridiculous. This is actually why I chose this particular practice 40 years ago. I was doing other forms of Buddhism before, which tended to become monastic. We had to pretty much leave the world, you know, to go into the monastery to do our practice. That was true of our Zen practice. It was true of my Hinayana practice as well. But this is a Mahayana practice for the masses, the chanting of Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. And what that means is that you do your practice, you do your chanting every day, then you go out and you live your life. And it takes you more deeply into the world. And if you pick up some residue out here in the world, which we're all going to do, chant about it. But don't retreat from it. We used to say, you know, in our Buddhist practice, that we don't retreat. We don't go on retreats. We advance. And this is the spirit of my writing as well. Why James Dean on the cover? Well, James Dean, kind of an artistic idol of mine. I have to be very honest. I did negotiate for the use of this on my books. I think I overpaid. But that said, back in the spirit of a great Buddhist practice takes you back into life. And there's suffering in life. Life is filled with just one day of suffering after another. Maybe we get a moment's respite from time to time. But I guess my books represent the suffering of life and some of the joys as well. But just as I continue writing, it's not easy to be a creative novelic writer. It's not easy. The judgments can be very strongly negative. But that said, I'm continuing to do that, and now on to my 8th book. Thank you so much for joining me. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Keep on chanting. Be well. Write your own book. Who knows? Okay? Be well. Take care.